Hello and welcome to CWTA, a series where I present facts and my opinions about a particular topic. And today's topic? Well, ain't you just glad you asked? He's a certified babysitter. He uses Fabergé Organics and Farrah Fawcett. Please don't tell him or else my ass is grass, thank you. One hell of a ladies' man, supposedly. And he's definitely seen Stranger Things. So, can we talk about Steve Harrington? Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that this series will be diving deep into the subject matter's lore and background, which for this episode is Steve Harrington. If you guys haven't watched the latest season of Stranger Things, which is season 4, or you have not watched the show at all, I just want to let you guys know that naturally there will be spoilers. But if you guys don't mind getting spoiled, or you have watched the entire show, then let's go ahead and take a look at Hawkins High School's heartthrob. Steve Harrington was born in 1966 in the fictional town of Hawkins in the very real state of Indiana. At the time of the first season, King Steve's age was 17, until he eventually became 19 in season 4. It is heavily implied that Steve does not have a close relationship with his parents, especially his father. Add to the fact, his mom tagged along on his dad's business trip because she didn't trust him, which signals a possible hint of tension between the two, mainly due to Mr. Harrington's unfaithfulness. Steve and Nancy were a couple up until season 2, where they had a falling out. When Steve tried to patch things up with Nancy, however, Dustin Henderson ran into him at the Wheeler's place, forming one of the best friendships the show has ever seen, until he eventually became the group's babysitter. Since the third season, Steve has only ever worked 2 jobs, Scoops Ahoy in season 3, and Family Video in season 4, though technically, he did kinda start off in season 3, but we'll count it off to season 4. Alright, now that we're done with the facts, let's move on to the fun facts. And trust me, just because Steve doesn't seem to be having fun in the show, doesn't mean that we won't be having fun. In season 3, while Steve was drugged, he admitted to his dad, who was actually Dustin at the time, that he doesn't do drugs, just marijuana. And I have so many questions. You guys think he knew he was talking to his dad? Was he actually a geek while he was stoned? Did he know what murder was? Does he know that the teddy bears are called Ewoks and that they don't make the kind of sound? And like, how would Stone Steve look like? I can't picture it. Usually when you're stoned, you just look sleepy and Steve, I don't know. So many questions, man. Steve's athleticism can be seen from season 2 when he played basketball against Billy, and season 4 when he stated that he's a Hawkins High swim co-captain and a certified lifeguard for over 3 years. Steve was originally supposed to be killed in season 1. His iconic scene against the Demogorgon with Nancy and Jonathan was meant for Lonnie Byers. You remember? Your deadbeat dad? Well, I wouldn't remember too. It was Joe Keery's performance that saved Steve from being cut off from the show. Based on Steve's interview with Keith when applying for Family Video, his favorite Star Wars film is Return of the Jedi. You know, because he references the Ewoks. No, I mean the teddy bears. Yeah, you know, the one with the teddy bears.
One with the teddy bears, duh.
Steve gets seriously injured and beaten up in every season. Season 1 was against Jonathan. Season 2 was against Billy Hargrove. Season 3 was when he and Robin got caught by the Russians, and Season 4 when he got attacked by the Demobats. Seems like he just can't catch a break. Really sad. According to Chester Rushing, aka Tommy Hagen's actor, the character had romantic feelings for Steve that played a factor in Tommy's anger towards Steve. I mean, come on. Can you blame him? No one can blame him, man. Have you seen Steve? Because I've seen Steve.
The obvious things are not what people observe or don't observe.
And lastly, Steve is 1 out of 3 playable characters in the asymmetrical horror game known as Dead by Daylight, along with Nancy Wheeler and the Demogorgon. However, due to licensing issues, you currently cannot buy them from the store. But there are possible rumors that the license will be renewed and will add more characters.
Let me see.
What?
Ah, oh, hey guys, what's up? I What was I looking at? Just, just a random bird flying by over there. Or maybe like a shirtless dude or two. What, what was that? Steve? No, oh, no, Steve wasn't there, he wasn't the shirtless dude. Anyway, right? Since we're talking about Steve Harrington, shall we? Alright, now we're at the opinion section of the video, and since it's the first episode in the entire series, I just want to explain that this is where I answer general key questions or prove points that I personally think are interesting about the subject matter, which, again, Steve Harrington. First and foremost, why do I like Steve? So the reason why I like Steve is how they managed to handle his character arc really well. As we all know, and we can all agree, we all hated Steve in the first half of the first season. I think I speak for everyone when I say we pretty much wanted him to die. That's how awful Steve Harrington of a character was in the first half of the season. I think the entire journey that he had with Nancy, away from Nancy, and with the party, or the group of kids that he's babysitting, was nothing short but amazing. Surprisingly, they were able to make Steve's character arc feel very natural, from the high school jock at Hawkins High School to the group's babysitter, and eventually the whole fandom's mom, is just nothing but funny and sort of great for me, because it expresses just how far his character has matured from the start of the show. And to prove another point, he turns out to be very selfless. We see this not only with Nancy and Jonathan, but we also see this eventually with the kids. The fact that he was able to help Jonathan as well fight off this huge Demogorgon thing that he's never seen before, quite literally, is sort of quite a weird turn from what we knew about him before that. Then of course, for season 2, he gets beat up by Billy, or a bunch of random kids, especially Max. He doesn't have a close relationship with Max, nor does he have a close relationship with the rest of the group except for Dustin. Seeing him do this and then continue on for season 3 to protect Robin and everyone else is showing of how well they managed to handle his character throughout the entire show. Now my second point is Steve's biggest moments and impacts on the show. I do have 2 honorable mentions, and at the same time I have 3 main points. Perhaps my biggest point from Steve's impacts on the show is when Robin came out. Robin and Steve's scene in the bathroom stall when they got out from the Russian base underneath Starcourt Mall. Robin came out to Steve right after Steve confessed to Robin about his feelings for her. Now, why do I think this is big? For several reasons. One, Steve handled the rejection pretty well. Let's not forget that this wasn't only Robin's coming out moment, but this was also Steve confessing his feelings for Robin. It was safe to say that Steve wasn't in the best headspace. And let's not forget, he was literally tortured by Russians. The fact that Robin was able to trust Steve with that information regarding her, how she truly felt about her sexuality, I feel like was pretty big. Because again, this Steve was, I don't know, in my opinion, I thought Steve wouldn't handle it as well as he did. Me seeing this from Steve just really set the bar really high for this character, because he handled Robin's coming out moment as sort of like it's a normal thing. Because let's not forget, the timeline for the show was in the 1980s, and 1980s back then was very not accepting of things like this, your sexuality, maybe a few mental illnesses. Society wasn't as quote-unquote mature as it is now. Of course, now is still sort of rocky. Accepting her for who she is and then making a joke about, I think it was Tammy Thompson, Robin's previous crush in high school, was for me big. Just a super huge win. The second point in Steve's biggest impact from the show is him protecting again, like I mentioned, him protecting the kids from Billy. Because, first of all, before this, he wasn't close to the group. And second of all, he, again, was not at all close to Max. So the fact that he would risk his life for someone like Max against her older brother, which I guess he did kind of hate before that, right? It was sort of surprising for me. I thought that the moment Billy shoved him aside and get into the house to retrieve Max, I legitimately thought Steve was not gonna do anything. Because again, what the hell did Steve know about Max? Like, at that point, I assumed nothing. So the fact that he was able to protect the kids and show everyone just how selfless he can be, and not after that, he protected them afterwards as well. He protected them from Billy, and then proceeded to protect them from upside down creatures. Babysitter status, I guess. It's just legendary. My third biggest point is Steve standing up against Carol and Tommy. Now, in my opinion, this was sort of like the catalyst for Steve's redemption arc from season 1. Being able to stand up against sort of people who have been around your side, or by your side, and influencing the way you think for a very long time, and recognizing how much of a bad influence they were, and deciding to actively make the effort to change yourself for the better, in my opinion, was just big. I think it came as a shocker for all of us that this dude, out of everyone, would turn a complete 180 and then just change for the better. And I honestly do think that Nancy was a big factor into this. I feel like if this was for any other person, Steve would have most likely not stood up against them. Now, my notable mentions are the scenes in season 4. The one where he notices what's wrong with Max at Billy's grave. I think that it just shows how much attention he pays towards the kids, especially Max in her times of trouble. He was the only one that saw what was happening with Max and detected something wrong, essentially saving her life. Because if they came in a lot sooner, they came in like a second late, I, without a doubt, guarantee that Max would have ended up like a beef salami or whatever. And my last notable mention was when Steve and Eddie were talking about Dustin and Nancy. It shows how much he cares about people in general, because for Dustin, he admitted that he felt kind of jealous towards Eddie because of how he felt that his role as a friend and as like a brotherly figure for Dustin was being taken over by Eddie. And I think for Nancy, it signaled a very clear sign that he was not done yet with Nancy. He had very, very clear feelings with Nancy to the point that he was able to confess he's been having a dream where he had 6 kids and a wife, and eventually confessing to Nancy that he wanted her to be that wife, and essentially accepting the fact that he had 6 kids already because of the group ending, which was pretty funny because he not only sees them as a group of kids anymore, no, he sees them as almost his actual kids. He probably didn't see that coming. Let's be honest. I don't think that Steve, for all the love that we give him, actually saw and realized just how much of an impact the kids would have on him. And he also sees Nancy as a wife after 2 seasons of not being with her and sort of accepting the fact that Nancy and Jonathan are gonna end up probably together forever. And lastly, it's very fun to speculate what the future holds for Steve. Will he die? Will he have his 6 kids and wife? Will he end up with Nancy as his wife? So, in my opinion, I think that he shouldn't end up with Nancy, because for the show, I felt like breaking up with Nancy was his opportunity and way to be friends with the kids. I think it would very much undervalue Nancy and her relationship with Jonathan if she ends up with Steve, because in season 2, it felt very personal that she did wanted to break up with Steve. Let's not forget, Nancy immediately ended up with Jonathan right after her breakup, and she did sleep with him in Murray's bedroom. So, I don't know. I personally don't see Steve dying in the end of Stranger Things because I can't see his death serving as a relevant purpose for the entire show. I do not see how it moves the story forward. I do not see how it helps the main characters like Levin towards their destiny or like their goal in the end. I fully believe that Steve would get his dream of having a family, and I do simply like the fact that Steve's just hanging out there. Steve is sort of finding himself and helping others find themselves, like how he pushed Robin towards pursuing Vicky so that she could end up happy with her. I feel like Steve, as of right now, where he is as a supporting character for the rest of the group, is pretty well done, and I believe he serves his purpose that way. I feel like Steve has a pretty good chance at surviving Stranger Things. I do wish the best for him. If they do somehow manage to make Steve's decision feel natural and authentic, like how he dies or ends up with Nancy or anyone else, I will support that. The road laid upon him is very clear as a supporting character. I would like to see him win. I'd like to see him win in life. I feel like he deserves it. As a character and a fan to that character, as a fan of Joe Keery's performance of said character, I do believe that most of the fandom, if not the entire fandom, would love to see Steve winning. So I wish the best for Steve. Honestly want to see more of him in the last season of Stranger Things. Probably a spin-off, some comics according to his life. I would just love to see more Steve. I am a Steve enjoyer, and I hope you guys are too. Yeah, that's it for now. And remember, it's never too late to talk about and form opinions about Steve Harrington. I'll see you guys in the next episode of